You're tuning in to Felly's Fishbowl, a marketing podcast for the entrepreneur that wants to create a feel-good business model. On this show, you'll be given the permission slip you've been missing to make that change and start building the business you originally dreamed about. Stick around for solo and interview episodes talking all things content creation and marketing. Sound good to you? Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Felly's Fishbowl. This week we are talking about personal branding, and I'm diving into my journey with personal branding because, like most things in my business, I consider it funny. I will be the first person to say that like graphics aren't my thing, design is not my thing, aesthetically pleasing to the eye, things are not my thing. I'm great with words. Words are my thing. Visuals? I can describe visuals. Again, words. The amount of notes I have in my app for when I'm a rich bitch and can have a personal cartoonist on hand because of the amount of graphics that I want, like designed based off of things in my head. You can see if you look through my graphics, like a lot of them when they're visual, it's something that I thought of in my mind and really struggled to create, I'm a big fan of creating your own templates on Canva, like the Notes app trend that has been so popular in this year. But yeah, back to my journey with personal branding. I, like so many of us, started with a DIY brand. I just went into Canva, picked some colors. I knew what I wanted in terms of vibes. I knew I wanted a deep blood red, and I have had that since the very start of my business. I honestly don't think my designer even changed the original red. I think it's like a a hue off, you know? Like the hex code's different, but it's the exact same color. But so my original branding was the blood red, and then I had this kind of like peachy grayish color. Not peachy gray, that doesn't make sense. I had the blood red, and then I had this kind of like pukey, pinky color to offset it, and then I had like ice blue. Very, very basic. I also only had those three colors, so by the time I was like getting more adventurous with my graphics and I hired the branding designer to make me a brand, um, I was really struggling because it was like only having 3 colors is not enough. It wasn't working. I didn't know how to, like, keep the red central and then, like, have things offset. But if you scroll back through my Instagram, Felly Day, you will see it all. I have never taken down old content. I don't believe in that. I'm all about, like, sharing my journey, and you can see it. If you scroll back through, there is some shit graphics there. There is some terrible branding. There's a phase where I started experimenting with fonts, and so every graphic has different fonts. It's very interesting, very interesting. I got to the point where I hired a professional to build me a brand strategy because I was frustrated. I hated my website. I had DIY'd that as well. I hated my branding. I felt like none of my graphics were very good. I would still say I don't think my graphics are amazing, but it was like I knew that they could be better if I could just figure my shit out when it came to fonts and colors. And I knew that I wanted my website to be so much better because of the amount of public speaking and PR related activities like media features and podcasts that I did. So many of the media features, like you can't say send them to my Instagram, they send them to your website. Same for Pinterest. Pinterest sends people to your website. And so it was like I had all this traffic being driven to my website and my website looked like trash. So this was at my 2-year point. I hired someone to do my branding, I think September 2021. And it was 100% worth it. The amount of changes that I saw, oh my lordy, we'll get into that. But I want to say, like, a big catalyst was that every time I would ask my coach in 2021, why aren't I signing clients in the agency? What's missing? She would say consistency and branding. That's what you need to sign high ticket clients, consistency and branding. I would like to say there was a whole lot wrong with my agency. My offers were shit. I had no structure to my back end, and my messaging was all over the place because I didn't know what I was offering. So there was a lot of reasons I wasn't signing clients, but those were her advice to me was to get better at being consistent about posting about it and not just ghosting every time I didn't sign a client, and having a higher level of branding. So let's get into the 4 biggest changes that I noticed once I hired a professional to do my personal branding, to create my brand strategy and create my website. For reference, all of it was done by Wildly Creating. She no longer runs an agency, so she doesn't do websites, but she does still do brand strategies, and she is amazing. I strongly recommend it. She is also next week's guest, so you'll hear all about her and her journey and her views on personal branding next week. But yeah, I can't recommend her enough. We've been connected for 3 years now, and I consider her one of my good friends online. So the first change and the main reason that I wanted and the result that the result I got from this investment was that my content got a million times better. Like, instantly, she helped me with stock photos, she gave me amazing fonts that I loved and, like, conveyed what I wanted, and it wasn't just, like, the visual aspect of it, because I knew people thought I was a bitch or standoffish or maybe a bit unapproachable. And so, like, the first thing I said when we were talking about brand strategy was I want it to be fun and approachable and not serious. Like, I know I'm going for like this blood red, intense vibes, and I wanted green. I wanted blood red and I wanted green because I live in tropical areas. And it was like, I don't want it to be Christmas. I don't want it to be like too intense and like intimidating. I want it to be fun. And I feel like that's exactly what my branding is. And I absolutely love it 2 years later. Not 2 years later, 1 year later. Sorry, math. But the next thing and the best thing that has happened is how much my website stands out. Every single person who goes to my website tells me, "I love your website. Your website has so much personality." Whenever I have people apply to work with me, they'll be like, "I loved your website. I couldn't stop reading the pages on your website." So my website is a big deal for me because of all that PR I do, like I mentioned. And so having people come to me in the DMs and say, "I'm obsessed with your website," like that meant so much to me. And I didn't realize how much it could have been hindering me. I would love to look through my numbers to see like if the time on site I would love to look at my numbers and see if the time spent on, like, each page has just, like, dramatically increased since I did this. I'm sure the homepage where everyone was landing in the beginning, way longer time spent on it than it would have been in 2021. The next thing that happened and what my coach said would happen was that my brand started to attract clients, but it also repelled clients because it was in your face. I was unapologetic about it. You can find, like, I swear on my website, I have modeling pictures on my website. All my pictures are self shot, and it's like I embody the unprofessional CEO to a T. And I do not give a fuck if you're bothered by that because that's part of my brand. My brand is all about being transparent and being authentic, all of those buzzwords from this year. um, and the last thing is that I really noticed it aligns me with high ticket. Having the professional branding aligned with charging high ticket. And this isn't to say that you need to make this big investment and go all out in order to start signing like 4 figure, 5 figure clients. But for me, doing done for you services, especially as I do content repurposing, and I know that there's been some struggles on my journey of people not respecting the art and considering that content repurposing is just copy pasting, blah, blah, blah. We won't get into it. But I've noticed like people take my brand seriously as much as it's like my agency content has like fucking roller coasters in the background and it's just a lot of call out content. But like people take my brand seriously and the inquiries and the like results that I've seen from my marketing post investing in branding is insane. Insane. Like 360 switch. It's It's a beautiful thing and a necessary thing. Like, I think you can get away with DIY branding for a long time with, like, doing it yourself and making sure that you're infusing, like, your values into your branding. A pet peeve of mine is when I look at a brand designer and I can a pet peeve of mine is when I look at a business and I can tell who designed their brand, because some of these people are creating templated brands. And that's fine. Templated websites work. Some people just have websites as funnels, you know? But for me, it's really about my personality standing out. I do not want to be mistaken for anybody else on the internet. And that's why I hired Sonia and Wildly Creating, because I knew she got it. I knew she could create my brand and have it be uncomparable to anybody else on the internet. Like, if you look through some of the brands she's designed, every single one is completely different, like, unrecognizable that it was the same designer because there's nothing in common, you know? And that's something that bothers me if I see people with the same fonts or everybody doing black and white or everybody doing peachy, pinky, beige. Like, I don't want to blend in any aspect of my brand. And Sonya's the one who came up with the term peaceful rebel because it's like, yeah, hell yeah, I'm fucking rebellious. But like, I'm not in your face about it. Maybe my branding's a bit in your face because it's blood red. But like, I'm very much just like, yeah, you do you. I'm going to go this way. I don't give a fuck if that's what resonates with you. It doesn't resonate with me. I'm not going to do it. I won't even try it, you know? I'm gonna get off my soapbox because I'm just ranting and raving now about my views and my problems with the branding space and like what I see happening a lot of the time. If you have any questions about building a personal brand, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. This is something I love to talk about. And I've seen when my clients incorporate their messaging into their branding, which is a lot of time incorporating your values into your branding, the difference, the way that you will stand out online is like incomparable to any other shift you could make. You could hire a social media manager, you could hire a graphic designer, but if you don't focus on building the foundations of your personal brand, it'll only go so far. And of course, next week I will be talking with Sonia. And of course, next week I will be bringing on my past one on one client, Sonia of Wildly Creating, to talk more about personal branding. And that's it. That's all I have for this episode of Felly's Fishbowl. If you loved this episode, please don't forget to rate and review. It makes such a difference for me and this show. And I love to hear all of your feedback, all of your comments on what I've said, what you've liked, and how you're loving it. And I'll catch you next week with another episode of Felly's Fishbowl. Ciao for now.